Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in. Okay, so today, we're really digging into something provocative.
Yeah, the question we're tackling is, what if this whole swirling debate around modern feminism, what if it isn't really about women's freedom at all?
Right. What if it's actually maybe a design distraction, something to keep us from asking, who really benefits from it all?
That's a pretty bold claim to start with, and our sources suggest it's maybe more than just a wild theory. We've looked at quite a bit of research, and it lays out this argument.
An argument that what often feels like a genuine, organic debate is actually manufactured.
Exactly, a manufactured conflict, maybe even a deliberate trap. Designed, it seems, to funnel our thinking down very specific and often, frankly, unhelpful paths.
And that's really our goal for this deep dive, right? To give you a shortcut, a way to understand this pretty intricate landscape.
Yeah, we want to expose the mechanisms underneath it all, trace who benefits, and hopefully equip you to see past all the noise.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe by challenging the whole idea of the feminism debate itself.
I think that's the right place. Our research indicates this isn't some genuine search for truth. It looks much more like a classic debate format, engineered specifically to create conflict.
And to force a false choice.
Precisely. You're often presented with just two options, two extremes. Either you embrace this hyper-individualistic, maybe child-free, corporate feminist future,
Right.
or you retreat back to some kind of idealized, maybe even mythologized traditionalist past. There's just no room allowed for anything else, anything in between.
It really does sound like a mental cage.
Right.
Our sources talk about how this whole discussion gets framed by these two really powerful ideas, capitalist realism and biological essentialism.
Can you break those down a bit?
Sure. Capitalist realism. It's that sort of pervasive feeling, that belief, that capitalism isn't just one system, it's the only possible system. Makes it hard to even imagine real alternatives, right?
Okay, got it. And the other one?
Biological essentialism. That's the idea that our biology, our sex, dictates these inherent unchangeable traits, and those traits then define our social roles.
So together, they just box the conversation in.
Exactly. They prevent any truly liberatory visions from even getting off the ground.
And when you look closely at the actual arguments used to, keep this conflict going, they start to show their cracks.
Yeah, our sources call it the assault team's logical and statistical minefield. Sounds dramatic, but...
We'll take that claim you hear sometimes. 82% of young women are depressed after casual sex. It gets dropped like it's a solid fact.
But the sources flag it immediately, don't they?
They do. We have to ask, okay, is this causation or is it just correlation? What about all the other factors they don't mention?
Or like societal shame or maybe repressive religious backgrounds that could actually cause the depression.
Exactly. Crucial details just swept under the rug because they don't fit the narrative.
And it gets pretty cynical, too, how they use these really emotionally charged stories.
Like Louise Perry's use of BDSM anecdotes, evoking images of dead women.
Yeah, it's a powerful appeal to fear, isn't it? But the conclusion drawn isn't about, say, giving women more autonomy or safety tools.
No, it's used to argue for less bodily autonomy. It's a complete inversion. It twists our empathy to work against the very idea of female freedom.
It's quite a move.
And then there's Erica Commissar's work on daycare. Our sources really take that apart. They show it as this very reductionist, almost neurodeterministic view of attachment.
Suggesting daycare causes irreversible harm based on neuroscience.
Right. But it conveniently ignores so many other variables, like what's the quality of the daycare, what about the parents' own mental health, their happiness, socioeconomic status.
All crucial context.
But it gets presented as this immutable scientific law, when really it's a contested theory, completely stripped of nuance to push a specific agenda.
This really highlights what our sources call the tactics of psychological manipulation. It's not just flawed logic. It's about weaponizing stories, weaponizing emotion.
Absolutely. Take Commissar again. She often steps into the role of the benevolent expert, right?
Yeah.
Using the language of psychoanalysis, neuroscience.
To gently guide women back towards traditional roles.
Yeah.
Always framed as being for the children's own good.
But the analysis we looked at unmasks this maternal feminism as essentially a Trojan horse. It sounds nurturing, but it's smuggling in a very specific, quite regressive message.
And Louise Perry plays a different kind of role.
Yeah, the reasonable centrist. She might say, okay, sure, the sexual revolution had some good points, but then she immediately pivots, focuses almost entirely on the harms.
So the subtle effect is
Painting female autonomy itself as inherently dangerous, something to be suspicious of. It's very clever rhetoric, actually. It undermines liberation without sounding too extreme.
And then you've got someone like Deborah Frances White, often seen as the radical in these discussions.
But her defense, according to our sources, often stays within the bounds of liberal individualism. It's about choice, agency, maybe processing trauma.
Which are important things, but
But the framing makes her arguments easier to dismiss by the other side, who are using science or common sense. She's allowed to be radical, but only in this, contained way that doesn't threaten the deeper structures.
and we can't forget that quick rhetorical trick they point out.
Oh, invoking Iran and Afghanistan.
Right. Used to just shut down any critique of Western feminism. The implication is if you question anything, you must want that.
It's pure deflection. Makes you feel extreme just for asking reasonable questions.
Okay, so this really brings us to the core, doesn't it? Who actually benefits from this whole manufactured debate?
Yeah, our sources say we need to adopt what they call a strategic command perspective, basically. Follow the money, follow the power.
And when you do that, the beneficiaries become pretty clear.
Starkly clear. First off, capital. Think about the rise of the dual-income household. It benefits capital immensely.
And the tradwife narrative, focusing on lifestyle choices.
It cleverly diverts attention away from the real driver. Unregulated capitalism, the shredding of the social safety net. That's what often requires two incomes now just to survive.
But instead of questioning the system,
The blame gets subtly shifted onto feminism. It's quite perverse when you see it laid out.
okay, so capital benefits. Who else?
The state.
Yeah.
Pretty obviously. More people working means higher GDP, more consumption, and a population busy arguing about cultural issues
Pacified by the illusion of consumer choice.
is much less likely to question deeper systemic problems or demand real structural change. It keeps things stable in a way.
And the reactionary.
They gain huge ground from this. The whole debate feeds directly into the manosphere narrative. It works by pathologizing women's success.
Framing male struggles as a direct result of feminism, like it's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. Men are portrayed as victims of feminism rather than perhaps victims of a much broader system that's failing a lot of people regardless of gender.
So the ultimate effect, according to these sources, is keeping women in this state of perpetual guilt.
Yeah, guilty if you work, guilty if you don't. Guilty about sex, guilty for not having it. It's this constant no-win bind. Designed, it seems, to maintain control and drain energy away from challenging the system itself.
And what's really fascinating is how these current benefits link back to older methods of control.
You mean this idea that women are naturally nurturing or that daycare is inherently harmful isn't new?
Not at all. Our sources connected directly to the 19th century cult of domesticity. Back then, they used so-called science like phrenology.
And now it's often neuroscience.
Right, to justify keeping women in the home. It's a classic example of what Foucault called biopower, using expert knowledge to manage people, disguising power as objective fact.
And philosophically, this essentialist argument is pretty shaky, isn't it?
Totally. When you look at ideas like Buddhist and the concept of no self, it argues there is no fixed essential feminine nature to return to.
Or Stoicism, viewing things like virtue and care as rational choices anyone can make, not biologically determined traits.
Exactly. These ideas fundamentally challenge the notion that our gender locks us into a specific purpose.
What about the other argument? That the sexual revolution created a crisis of male purpose, the sort of lost provider narrative.
That's another classic reactionary trope. You see similar arguments throughout history whenever social structures change. Against abolishing slavery, against ending feudalism.
Fear of chaos without the old order, worrying about people's roles.
Precisely. It's less about solving actual problems and more about preserving existing power structures, specifically patriarchy in this case.
Whereas other frameworks, like, say, anarchist theory, would argue those hierarchies should be dismantled, not mourned.
Right, and a Marxist view might say the crisis of masculinity isn't caused by feminism, but by capitalist alienation, the system grinding everyone down and then pitting us against each other.
Which leads to maybe the most insidious argument they use, that freedom without structure is a prison.
Yeah, the sources argue this is basically the bedrock justification for all authoritarianism. Give up your messy freedom for the illusion of security, for nice, neat, predefined roles.
It suggests your anxiety isn't about the system failing, but about you failing to handle your freedom properly.
But thinkers like Sartre and de Beauvoir argued the opposite, didn't they? That we're condemned to be free. The anguish, the responsibility of creating meaning, that's the price of being authentic.
And retreating into those comfortable structures is what they called bad faith.
And someone like Deleuze talked about moving from rigid disciplinary societies to these fluid societies of control.
Where control isn't just walls and rules, but
Mhm.
more like constant modulation algorithms, metrics, personalized ads.
Exactly. The issue isn't a lack of structure. It's a new, sneakier kind of control that often pretends to be freedom.
Okay, so if this whole debate is manufactured, how do we actually spot the tricks? How do we see the manipulation?
Well, the sources give us what they call an armory of manipulation, specific deceptions to watch out for. Let's break down the first one, the false binary of good versus bad feminism.
The classic false dichotomy. Or maybe a straw man. Where does its power come from?
Primarily from capital and the state, according to this analysis, it's classic divide and rule. Splinter any potential unified challenge to the economic system.
So if you buy into it,
You end up spending all your energy policing who's a real feminist, fighting internally, instead of confronting the actual power structures affecting everyone. Keeps us busy fighting each other.
makes sense. What's deception number 2?
The conflation of capitalism's failures with feminism's.
Yeah.
This is tagged as suppressed evidence, or a Mott and Bailey tactic.
Like blaming environmentalists for pollution caused by big oil, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's whataboutism 101. Divert attention from the real source of the problem.
And the danger, the freedom lens here, is that if you accept this deception,
You let the real architect of your stress, an economic system demanding more and more just to survive, completely off the hook.
and instead you blame the movement that just gave women the right to be equally exploited in that system.
Precisely. It's a clever bait and switch. Blame the people trying to navigate the system, not the system itself.
Okay, what's next in the armory?
The weaponization of choice. This is called a logical fallacy reification, and it's fueled by capital and neoliberal thinking.
Reification. Treating an abstract idea like choice as if it's a concrete thing separate from context.
Exactly. It's the core neoliberal trick. Frame huge systemic pressures, like the need for almost everyone to work as just individual lifestyle choices.
And if you internalize that,
You start seeing yourself as, like, the solo CEO of You Inc. Any struggle becomes a personal failure, a brand management problem. You blame yourself for not choosing better instead of questioning the limited choices you were actually given.
right. And the last one.
The pathologizing of male struggle as a feminist plot. This is straight up scapegoating and causal reductionism. Comes directly from patriarchy, feeds the manosphere,
The oldest trick in the book, basically.
pretty much. Blame a marginalized group for problems created by the powerful. Blame immigrants for economic downturns. Blame minorities for crime. Blame feminists for male alienation.
When you fall for that one,
You end up pitting the oppressed against each other right on the oppressor's doorstep. It guarantees nobody looks up to see who's actually holding the keys to the cage. Classic divide and conquer, but playing on really deep emotions.
wow. Okay, so if these are the deceptions trapping us, how do we break out? What's the alternative?
Our sources talk about something called the liberation engine. The idea is that the real path forward is actually dissolve these forced binaries. Freedom versus structure, individual versus community.
It's not about choosing one side.
No. True liberation isn't just about having more choices on the same old capitalist menu. It's about us, collectively, designing a completely new menu.
A menu where things like care work are actually valued and shared.
Yes, and where community support replaces the isolation many feel, and where sexuality is about consensual connection, not a product or a duty. That initial feeling you had that this debate is manipulative, it's spot on. It's a spectacle designed for clicks and division, not real progress.
Which brings us to what the sources call the ultimate deception.
Yeah, the big one. The lie that your pain, your confusion, your anxiety, it's all because you have too much freedom.
And the solution they offer.
Is always a return. Back to stricter rules, clearer roles, more tradition, more structure.
It's the foundational lie of every single reactionary movement, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's seductive because it offers simplicity when things feel complex. It offers false certainty when you feel doubt, and crucially blames you and the idea of freedom for failures that are actually rooted in the system itself.
So we need to be really clear here. Your pain, your struggle, it's real. We see that.
It is absolutely real. But its cause, according to this analysis, is not feminism, it's neoliberal capitalism.
A system that turns everything, relationships, bodies, time, attention, into a commodity.
And offers you only the sort of hollow prize of choice within that system. It demands you be the perfect productive worker and the perfect consumer.
Whether you're performing trad wife on Instagram or burning out as a girl boss in an office.
The fight between those two models, it's not about real liberation. It's just arguing over which brand of chains feels slightly better. It's about managing discontent within the system, not dismantling it.
So what's the takeaway? What's the call to action?
It's what our sources frame as a call to intellectual rebellion.
Reject their binary. Refuse their terms.
Yes, burn this mental prison down. Use your own critical thinking.
Stop looking for approval. Stop begging for validation for your sacrifices or choices from the very system that demands them.
Exactly. The architect of the cage isn't going to praise you for making yourself comfortable inside it.
So stop asking those limiting questions like, am I a good feminist? Or, what's the right way to be a woman?
Those questions keep you trapped. Instead, ask the real questions. Who benefits from me even asking these questions?
And maybe even more importantly, what kind of world do my partners and I and our community actually want to build for ourselves?
Your mind, that's the one thing they can't truly own, unless you hand it over willingly.
Stop begging for chains. Think for yourself.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. What's one small rebellious act you can do this week to reclaim a piece of your own cognition?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.